We'll be starting chapter 3 of class 11, the basic problems of an economy. An economy consists of the people living there and their interactions. People in an economy face different types of problems while interacting among others. We will discuss one particular economic problem in this chapter, the one which is based on scarcity. Economic problem is the problem regarding allocation of limited resources. The resources are the factors of production, land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. These are known as resources because they are helpful for production of different goods and services. And these resources are limited in supply. Our problem is to allocate those limited resources for the production of different goods and services in a proper way. Now, since the resources are scarce, there aren't enough resources to produce all the goods that people want to consume. Okay? Needs of the people are more. They demand more number of products. For production of all those goods, we need resources, and the resources are limited. So we don't have enough resources to produce all the goods which people want to consume. As a result, scarcity crops up. Scarcity implies that people must make a choice to give up one thing to get another thing. That is, they must make a choice. Since they have unlimited wants and with limited resources they can produce limited number of goods, hence they will have to choose whether they will use one product or the other product. That is, they have to make a choice regarding their wants. Fulfill the one which is more essential, ignore the one which is less essential. Hence, economic problem is basically the problem of scarcity and the problem of choice. Clear? Then we move on to an explanation of the same concepts. Since there are limited resources which has to satisfy the unlimited wants or needs of the consumer, an economic problem crops up. What is the economic problem? How to match limited resources to unlimited wants and needs. Now, why does the economic problem arise? We have already discussed. The same thing has been discussed in the previous pages also. Why does it arise? Because man has unlimited wants, which can be satisfied with limited resources or means. And we have added another point here. These resources can also be put into alternative uses. Okay, that means one resource or one means can be put into various uses. That is why we can choose. For example, a piece of leather can be used to make either um, a jacket or a bag. It can be used for a number of uses. So it helps us to choose which resource we will use. People of the country will never be satisfied. They will always need something more. Okay, there are never enough goods to satisfy the demands of the people. We will always want something, or they will always want something more and more, need something more and more. So the basic problem for the country is scarcity, because we have unlimited wants and limited resources. Now let us discuss what are the problems an economy is facing. There are three basic problems an economy faces. The first problem is what to produce. The second problem is how to produce a product. And the third problem is for whom to produce a product. Okay, what to produce means what products to be produced. How to produce means the method we will use for producing the products. And for whom to produce means there are various categories of people: rich, poor, medium standard, etc. When we decide what we are going to produce, what product we are going to produce, whom shall we keep in mind? Shall we produce for the rich people, or for the middle standard people, or for the poorer people. That is to be decided in for whom to produce. Let us discuss these in details. The first question, that is the question of what to produce. The question of what to produce has two parts. First one, what commodities are to be produced? We can either produce a consumer good or a capital good. Consumer good means a good which is used by the consumers directly. For example, you are using a book, you are using a phone. Now you have purchased it for using it yourself, or you're using a tab, or you're using a laptop. Some you have purchased the product yours for your personal use. That becomes a consumer good. And a capital good is one which is manufactured for producing other goods. The machine used to make a pen, the machine used to make a shoe is termed as a capital good. Okay. Secondly, we have to decide whether we are going to produce a wartime good or a civilian good. Wartime good means those goods used during the war like weapons. Civilian goods are the goods which are used in normal life of an individual, say a pen, a book, etc. Now, the type of commodity to be produced depends upon the pattern of demand. That means what the people in a particular country demand depending upon the circumstances of the people. We decide what commodities are to be demanded. Next, in what quantity the goods are, after deciding what we are going to produce, the next thing we have to decide is in what quantity the goods are to be produced. Okay. It depends upon the availability of resources in the country. That means how much raw material we have, how many workers are present who can work to produce the goods, etc. Depending on resources, land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur, we can decide how many goods are to be produced. Now, the number of goods to be produced in a country earlier was also dependent upon the demand, but now we have studied that there is unlimited wants of consumers. Hence, that has become immaterial these days. We move on to how, the question of how to produce, the method to be used for producing the product. There are two methods of producing. It can be either a labor intensive technology or it can be a capital intensive technology. A labor intensive technology is one which relies on using more of labor and less of capital. It cannot be produced only by using labor. It has to be produced with a combination of labor and capital. When a product is manufactured using more of labor and less of capital, it is known as labor intensive technology. But when a product is manufactured using more of capital, less of workers, it is termed as a capital intensive technology. For example, for making tea, you can use a tea making machine. Okay, that means you will need, suppose you have to make 5,000 cups of tea in a day. You use a tea making machine and one person is enough to make 5,000 cups of tea in a day. But if you use the normal method of making tea like a gas stove, a container and a person, okay, in that case one person is not enough to make the tea. At least 4 to 5, since 5,000 cups of tea to be made in a day, we at least need 4 to 5 people. But expenses on machine is very less in labor intensive technology. Okay, but expenses on capital is on labor is more. Okay, but here if you use a machine for production of the product, that means we have to spend more amount of money on the capital. The third question we need to decide is for whom to produce. That means who is going to buy the product. Okay, that means one who has the money to pay for the product is going to buy the product. That means in fact, here we are not studying who is going to buy the product. We are going to study who has the income by which he can buy the products. Okay, that means we are studying how the national income is distributed among the factors of production. This is known as a functional classification. We are going to study rent, wages, interest, and profit. What part of the income is taken up by the factors of production? Rent taken up by land, wages taken up for capital, interest, wages taken up by labor, interest taken up by capital, and the entrepreneur takes up the profit. Among these, who gets more, who gets less, and who will be able to afford for the products? We are simply studying how the income has been distributed among the factors of production, because the one who has the money will have the ability to pay for the goods and to buy it. There are some other basic problems faced by an economy. The first one is problem of fuller utilization of resources. That means whatever limited resources we have, is the economy able to use those resources properly for the production of the goods and services or not? Fuller. For example, a Xerox machine can Xerox say 5,000 pages in a day. We use it to Xerox 4,000 pages. That means we are not using its full capacity. You can study 40 pages in a day. You are not studying. You are studying 30 pages. You are not utilizing your full capacity. Okay, this is what is fuller utilization of resources. If we fully utilize resources, production will be more. And in a present circumstance where scarcity is a main problem, we need to make fuller utilization of resources. Then the next economic problem is efficient use of resources, whether the resources are being used properly or not. Okay, I'll tell you now what is the proper use of resources. A plot of land which is meant for growing rice should be used for growing rice. Then production will be more. If you use it for growing wheat, production will be less. Okay. Secondly, a man trained for doing a particular work should be given to do that work. Production will be more then. Okay. Now, efficient use of resources means the resources are used in the best possible way. Okay, best possible way so as to attain maximum production. Okay. Resources need to be used in the best way so that production is maximum. Secondly, goods are to be distributed among consumers in such a way that they get the maximum satisfaction. That means one who needs whichever product should be provided that product. If there is fuller utilization of resources and efficient use of resources, there will be an increase in production as well as an increase in satisfaction, and that will lead to economic growth. That means expanding or increasing the country's capacity to produce goods and services, which will lead to an increased flow of goods and services in the economy. And that's what is needed in this present condition where we are facing scarcity.